Welcome, welcome, welcome to our 2014 Women's Day celebration. We are happy to have you here today to honor women within our campus and in the community. I'll be your moderator for the program. I am Malay Wilson, a freshman majoring in rehabilitation from Tulsa, Oklahoma. We will promptly move right along with the program. Cheyenne Wallace, our SGA president, you guys make some noise. She will introduce our speaker for the evening.
Good morning, everybody. Inspired by her African roots, Liberian-born fashion designer and stylist Korto Momolu is stamping her global brand on fashion towards women's wear and accessories that celebrate the essence of her rich heritage through the use of her traditional luxurious fabrics, skins, mixed prints, etc. Advancing her field experience, she auditioned for and earned a spot on the 5th season of Bravo TV's hit show, Project Runway. Throughout the season, Korto's primary signature for high color and diversity in style and presentation, in addition to her feisty spirit, resonated well with audiences, earning her the prize of fan favorite and ultimately a placement of first runner-up at the season's close. Highlighted in the top 5 designers to watch in New York City this season, Korto has been featured in many international and national publications and has appeared on numerous television shows, including 2 seasons of Project Runway All-Stars. She presently makes her home with her husband and daughter in Little Rock, Arkansas.
Y'all got some good weather here. But thank God I made it from Little Rock. Well, as she introduced me, my name is Korto Momolu. I am originally from Liberia, West Africa. Does anybody know where that is? 1, 2 people? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, that's usually better. 8, 9, 10. Where I'm from is actually on the curve of Africa. If you can imagine what Africa looks like on that curve right here, the very point is where I'm from. It's a country called Liberia. It was actually founded by free slaves from the U.S., originally from the Virginia area, who wanted to go back to Africa and establish their roots. So they traced their roots back to Liberia. So we're actually founded by American slaves. And Liberia is one of those countries that, you know, the slave trade, when people were coming to pick up people, you know, Ghana and Ivory Coast, those are one of the countries that they came to take descendants. So some of you could, if you trace your roots, actually might find out you're from Liberia. So check it out. Oprah found out she was, and she's actually a neighboring tribe of mine. So a very interesting thing to look into if it's something you're interested in. I grew up there most of my life. I'm going to tell you guys a little bit about my story so you kind of know where I've been, where I am, and kind of where I'm going. I think that's always important, especially for where you are in your lives right now. You need to know who you are. And when somebody asks you who you are, it's not just about who you are today. It's who you were before you got to Pine Bluff and who you're going to be after you leave here. It's very important. And I think when you can express that to someone when they ask you, they look at you so differently than when you just say, well, I don't really know, I'm just figuring it out right now. I grew up in Liberia most of my life. When I was about 4, my parents actually left Liberia to come to the US to continue their education. Because where I'm from, whether you are rich or poor, public school, private school, you still have to pay to go to school. So I know a lot of times you see stuff on TV where you see African people who are not educated. It's not because they can't or don't want to be educated. It's really because they can't be educated, because sometimes they don't have the money. So even to go to a raggedy public school, you still have to pay money, and some people can't afford to. So usually what they do, the oldest person in the family, the oldest child, will be the one that will be designated to go to school. They'll sacrifice that, and they'll come home and teach their brothers and sisters. And my dad was that person. He was the oldest son. He went to school and he got his education up until he was about in high school. And he went home and he taught his brothers and sisters. My grandfather actually had 9 wives. And they all lived together in the same house harmoniously, and had a lot of children. So there was a lot of knowledge that had to be passed on to his siblings. So you kind of carry that burden about, you know, being the one that had to succeed, and he was very successful with it. You know, he found his way with his kids and his wife and brought them to the US. We actually went to Boston when my parents went to college, and both of them got their master's degrees there. And once they got that, we went back to Liberia. So I think there's another misconception that people think, like when immigrants come to the US, that they just want to be in your country and they don't want to leave your country. A lot of immigrants don't want to be here. They want to go back to where they're from because that's home for them. But a lot of times where they're from is not safe, or it's not a place that they can get education or be able to express themselves in a way where they can build a life for their family. So they come here for a better opportunity. Opportunity that all of you have, like all of you here, you just don't know. You get to go to school for free. I know a lot of people complain about going to public school. Some people may have went to private school, but you get to go for free. A bus picks you up and takes you to school and feeds you, and then feeds you some more, and then brings you back. That's something people in my family dream about and would never have, because it's not possible. That's a privilege. That is a gift. And I think a lot of times it's life for you, so you don't even think of it as something special, but people would give their lives to trade one day with you to be able to say, I went to college, or even say they went to high school. You have people who are in their 20s and 30s who have 5th grade education because that's the most they could afford to get. So tomorrow when you wake up, or even today after you leave here, just take that opportunity and use it for everything that you can, because there's so many people that are giving their lives for you to do so. So my dad, after we left Boston, he got their master's degree, and he went back home and he decided he was going to go into politics. So, for me it was good, because my parents they grew up in like this old village, with mud houses. My grandfather's house, even though he had 9 wives, he lived in a mud house. But I mean, to some people that was like living poor, but in his village, he was the richest man, because he had farms. Like we have farms probably 3 times the size of this entire campus. We sold oranges and grapefruits and mangoes, and you name it, we made it. We had cattle, we had rice, so everything that we made, we ate. We didn't go to the supermarket, we didn't depend on the supermarket. Everything that we made, we ate, and we fed the villages that we lived in, and the villages outside of our villages, and people in the city. And because he had all those wives, that showed his wealth. And he wasn't concerned about having a big house, because even when my dad got into politics and made money, and we were able to live this pretty good lifestyle, he didn't want any of that, because he was already rich. And I think that's kind of how I grew up, kind of figuring out what riches meant, what wealth meant. It wasn't about having that Mercedes or the rims or the bank account that had this and that. It was in your family and the things that you can actually show about your wealth. Some people have wealth, but they can't even show it. It's locked up in stuff that if, God forbid, anything happened, they would lose all of it. So you got to think about that when you're in here, what you're doing in college, and when you leave here, what you want to make of your lives. How can I create wealth for myself? And what does that wealth mean? Does it mean I'm driving this great car? I'm living in this big house, a house that could easily burn, and then what do you have? Nothing. Wealth is so much more, and I think a lot of the wealth starts in here. You have to think about different ways to create your wealth, that when people look at you, they don't have to judge you by what you have on and say, well, yeah, he's rich. You can come in here wearing the most raggediest clothes and have the most than the person who comes in wearing all the diamonds and gold in the world. So growing up, like once my dad did make it, he was able to take all his brothers and sisters and put them through school. A lot of them actually worked in our household, because where we're from, you don't hire like a nanny or you don't hire like a cook. The person that cooked for us was like our uncle. The person who took care of us after school and helped us with the homework, that was our cousin. And it was our family. Y'all know you guys heard about it takes a village to raise a child. That was our village. My entire family, all my uncles and aunts and cousins that all those 9 wives created, they're the ones that took care of us. And my parents could go out and provide for the family. And growing up, I never really thought of it as anything other than being normal. It was normal for me to have my family around me the whole time. So you trusted that, and you put that wealth back into your family. Instead of giving it out to other people, you keep it in your family. And that's how we build our wealth more. There was some point though where there was like this civil unrest in Liberia, and like the teachers went on strike, and I was in the 7th grade at the time, and we couldn't go to school. We're out of school for like 6 months, so my parents decided that they were gonna send us to Canada to go to an all-girls boarding school. Not a good time for me, because I didn't want to leave home. I've never been to Canada. It's like night and day. You come from Africa and then you go to this place that snows all the time, and it just wasn't good, and we'd never been there before. It's me, my sister, my brother, and we got shipped there. And at the time, I didn't want to go, but I knew that it was a sacrifice that my parents actually wanted to make for us to be able to have our education. So we went to Canada, stayed there, went to this all-girl boarding school, and that's actually when I began like my road to fashion. I didn't really know that I was going to be a fashion designer like all my life. I knew I was creative. I remember some of my happiest memories are when I was drawing or just being creative or doing creative things, taking my Barbies and remixing their hair or their outfits. But it never occurred to me, you know, to be a fashion designer. I didn't know anybody in my family that's even creative or an artist. It was always about, I was always told to be a doctor, a lawyer, an accountant, something that was, you know, gonna make real money, a real job. Real job. So being creative is something that I kind of kept a secret. Like I would go to school and win these art contests and nobody would know at my house because I knew it wasn't like something that was encouraged. You know, like there was one contest, like we actually had to design like a pin that would represent our entire class. So we went on field trips, that pin would tell whoever found us what class they were in, what homeroom, etc. And I won that contest. I had this big plaque at school, nobody at home even know any of that because I didn't have that support. And I tell you that part because I know a lot of you have things that you want to do in life. Some of you probably right now have a major that you've already declared, but you don't even want to do it. Maybe mom or dad told you you had to, or somebody told you it was the best thing for you. And I'm not saying go and change your major, but I'm saying if there's something that you're passionate about, that you dream about, that every time you have a few minutes to spare, that's all you think about, that's your passion. So even if you have to do a double major, if you have to find a way to do it as an extracurricular, that's something you just need to do to fulfill your life. Because I think in life, you have this one life you live. And then after you leave here, we don't know what's happening after. So you have to fulfill it to the fullest. So although my parents didn't support me in what I did, I made sure that I lived that other side of my life. Even though it was a secret little life I had, I was the choreographer. I used to love to dance as well. So I choreographed plays. I did the backdrop. I was always creative. Everybody but my parents knew that, you know, I was this really gifted, creative child, and I didn't really know where I was going to go until I got to about the 11th grade, and we had to, you know, start thinking about college and what we wanted to do. And I remember going in this class with my guidance counselor, and he, you know, he kind of asked everybody what they wanted to be. And at the time, I actually really wanted to be a choreographer because I could dance really well. And I remember he told me I couldn't do that. And in my head, I was like, man, why can't I do that? You know, the only choreographer I knew was Debbie Allen at the time that looked like me. I'm sure there were others, but that was the only one I knew of that looked like me because I watched Fame and I knew about her, you know, her trials and tribulations and what she had accomplished. So at that time, I'm thinking, wow, this man just told me I can't be a choreographer. And that was before, you know, Britney Spears and NSYNC and all these people came out with choreographers that people knew the names of. So I just thought to myself, man, well, maybe I can't be that. I tell that story because at the time, I didn't have confidence in myself as an artist. I didn't have that backup that was pushing me to be something that I wanted to be. I didn't have it because at that time, it was all secret. So I didn't have the confidence to stand up and say, you know what, why can't I be a choreographer? Tell me why. So I went on to the next. You know, at the time it was like a disappointment for me, but I think I look at it now as a blessing. I think it was God. You know, sometimes in life there are things that you might want to do in the path that you think you're supposed to take. And somebody might come into your life and there might be a hater, there might be somebody that really supports you, but they might try to steer you in another way. At the time, it seems really bad, but later on in life, when you look back at it, it's almost a blessing. I wasn't supposed to be a choreographer. I was supposed to be a fashion designer. And not too long after that, I actually had an art teacher that noticed every week in art class, I started drawing dresses and different kind of clothes, and she saw that in me. It's something that I didn't even pick up myself because I was so young. I was 15. I actually graduated at 16. So I had this mentor come in my life that said, you know what, I see you going in this direction. And she mentored me. She actually guided me and helped me develop a portfolio and apply to the right schools. And so I could be able to, you know, get this design career going. Thankfully for me, I had that mentor, but a lot of you probably haven't had that person in your life. I think sometimes we either go to family or we go to friends. Sometimes these people come in the form of strangers. I think when you're dreaming about something and something you want to do, you always have to speak about it. You just never know who in that crowd that you're talking to at that time might hear something or spark something and say, you know what, I don't know how I'm going to help you be this space cadet selling cupcakes on the moon, but I like your idea and I like your drive and I'm going to try to help you as much as I can. Sometimes you leave your friends in high school and then you always follow the same path. It's okay, you're going to lose friends from high schools and you come to college and you meet new friends and you add on or you somehow drop off before you graduate. That's okay, that's the cycle of life. But always around you, keep people around you that are supportive of what you do. whether they can help you or not, a positive word is always better than somebody telling you what you can't do. A lot of times when you have people in your life that tell you what you can't do, or people who don't know how to dream or have dreams, but they're so afraid of going after their dream, they'd rather knock your dream down so that they feel comfortable about not pursuing theirs. These are all little things that I had to learn kind of along the way about my life and my friends and even sometimes my family. So there's one day my dad called from boarding school, and he kind of asked me and my sister, you know, what we were going to apply for in college. And I announced I was going to be a fashion designer, and the whole world dropped because he's like, I'm not paying for you to go to school to be drawing all day. So at that time, like, my whole life just kind of ended, like, oh my God, so what am I going to do? And I really wanted to be a designer, but I knew that it wasn't approved. And that was kind of like my way of like standing up to him and saying, well, this is what I want to do and I'm going to do it. But he clearly told me he wasn't paying for it. So my second choice was something that I've always wanted to do, but I wasn't as passionate about. So I told him that I would do law. I'd go into law and get a second major as a designer. I don't know how in the world I thought I was going to achieve that, but it worked out later that I didn't have to. So graduation day comes and I do really well. And actually a few months before I graduated, we got a call from Liberia saying that there was a coup. Does everybody know what a coup is? A military coup? It's when people, either from the military or just people, regular citizens like yourself, decide they don't like who the president is, and they decide they're going to overthrow the government and kill off all the government officials and their families so that they can be president. So right before graduating, this happened, and because my dad worked in the government at the time, he was one of those people that was going to get murdered. What they do, they line you up on the beach and they kill you by firing squad. We were lucky enough that my parents were able to escape with my little brother, but so many people who weren't able to escape were murdered. And everybody that was related to us in our family that they could reach, they were murdered. Our houses were burned, our cars, all our wealthy things were taken away, and we really had nothing. But we had our family. I had my immediate family that was, thankful to God, able to escape and come to Canada because we were already in Canada. So that's what I always say about the things that we think are disappointments in our life, but they end up being blessings later. Like, I didn't want to go to Canada to go to school, but had I not been there, my entire family probably would have got murdered. I probably wouldn't even be here talking to you right now. So all that stuff is just God kind of working in your favor for what's coming in your life. So we're able to get to Canada. My parents were able to come, but the thing is, although we're all safe and sound, we lost everything. All our wealthy things were gone. And all our money was tied up in this country where we couldn't go back and even get it. So here we are, we have two parents that have master's degrees, very educated, living this lifestyle that, you know, some people dream of, being chauffeured to school, having servants, this, that, and other. And we had nothing. We had to actually apply to get on welfare. I couldn't go to college because we weren't citizens of Canada, and you had to be a permanent resident or a citizen to be able to get like a loan to go to school. So here I was at this time of my life where some of you, you know, you just graduated, some of you are freshmen, you just graduated high school, you apply to school, you have your whole future ahead of you, and I've been raised, you know, this is what you do. You go to high school, you go to college, because I was one of the chosen ones that was able to do that, and here that day came and I couldn't do it because we didn't have it. We lost everything. But the thing about that situation is that's kind of when my parents came around to see my gift. The one thing that I remember about that time is that it was always like sadness. You know, we were always getting news on the phone calls about parents, people that we knew that were being murdered, things that were being destroyed back home, and we couldn't go back home because we were in exile. We were on this death list if we returned. But the one thing that kept me happy at that time was my art. I would actually escape, get my sketchbook, and go and sketch. You know, that was my happy place. I always found that happy place where I could go and actually sketch things and just escape all the bad stuff. And it just so happens my mom found my sketchbook one day and she looked through it and she came to me and she's like, I had no idea that you were even this talented in this stuff. You know, she told me she was sorry and that she wished she had known earlier, but from that moment forward that she was going to help me pursue that dream. So here we are, and all this bad stuff is happening. That of all the times, that was the one time my parents were able to actually realize that I was gifted as a designer or as an artist, and they were going to support me. But then we didn't have any money to go to school, so here it was like a catch-22. So my mom actually took my sketchbook and she would take it to all these different places that she would volunteer at. And at the time, you know, I'm 16 and I'm very selfish. I'm thinking, why is she volunteering all these places? You know, we're sitting here, we have no family, our family's getting murdered, we have no money. But she would always find this positive attitude to go forward and volunteer and help other people. And in her volunteering, doing all that stuff, actually blessed our family. One day she took my sketchbook to church, and there was this lady there that had been a design teacher in Montreal, Canada. And she saw my sketchbook, and she told my mom that I was very talented. And she thought that we shouldn't wait, you know, until we were able to get citizenship, because it would take years and years. And that she wanted to bless our family, and she actually paid for me to go to design school. So, in all that being selfish and all the negative things that are happening, here it is that the one time in my life where I think everything's falling apart, once again, God comes in and he finds his angel to save me. So this is when I really started thinking about the kind of life that I wanted to live. I thought about all the stuff that my parents did, the sacrifices they made, and all the things that they did to help me get to that point. These are people who didn't even believe in what I was doing, you know, a month or two before, and here, because of my mother, I was able to go to design school now and have this woman who had no idea who she was. She didn't owe anything to our family, but she was going to pay for me to go to the school to finish my education. So I vowed then that I was always going to give back. You know, not always take, but give back, and give back all the things that I felt like God had given me up until that point. I went to design school, and I found out really slowly that I really sucked. I really sucked at it. I could sketch really well, but I couldn't sew at all, and I was actually horrible at it. So there just kind of came a point where I had to tell myself, look, girl, you have to decide if you're going to do this. You either have to push through, or you're going to have to just give up. And all the things that happened for me to get to that point, I knew giving up wasn't even an option for me. It's something definitely that I had to kind of fulfill, because so many people had given their lives and their time for me to be able to pursue this dream. It was a 3-year program, and after my 3rd year, we graduated, and you know, I was always at the bottom of the class. My stuff was always getting ripped up. My instructors even told me you might need to find like another job, another career, because you're not really good at this one. But I remember doing this final collection for school when I graduated, and I placed in the top 3 of my class, and the judges that actually were there were actually seasoned fashion designers from Toronto, Canada, and other parts of the country, and they based it on not how it was sewn or how it was put together, but the design. Looking at the design, is it something that they could sell? Is it something that people would see and want to buy? Is it something that a store would want to carry? And I actually fit into that criteria. So even though I wasn't the best seamstress or the best sewer or the best pattern maker, my work shined because I didn't give up, and I gave it my everything. And that's actually what kept me kind of focused and motivated to kind of keep moving forward with design, because at that point I really had nowhere else to go. But because I finished 3rd, and I knew that out of like a class of 20, finishing 3rd and being at the bottom the entire 3 years, that was my insight that, you know, I had something there. So I left school and I taught myself. You know, I got patterns and I took sewing classes, and I kept moving forward, teaching myself how to sew, finding clothes. I actually worked in this really high-end boutique, and I would actually work in the store and buy the clothes and take them apart, really well-made clothes, and figure out how to put them back together. You're gonna leave here, you're gonna graduate, and maybe your instructors or what you pick up from here might not be everything you need to go forward in your life or with your degree. Because we're in a time where you can have a degree, you can have a master's, you can have a PhD, you can have a doctorate. It doesn't mean anything sometimes. Sometimes you have to get more than what you're given here. So you're gonna have to find other things to do outside of what you do in your classroom. If it's something that you love to do and you're not getting 100% here, find a place outside of here to enhance whatever you've gotten. Go online. You guys are in the most amazing time to be a student. You have iPhones, smartphones that think for you. I think people always ask me, what is this and what is that? I'm like, you have a smartphone. You can find out in like 2 minutes what something is. You don't have to ask anybody anything when you can go and search for it yourself. So use all the things that you have to learn more. Use all the things that you're given to get more. Network, volunteer, sign up for things, help other people, and all those things that you do always will come back to help you. All that volunteering my mom did ended up getting her a job. We went from welfare to her owning her own company, where she actually taught other immigrants from Somalia and Rwanda and all those other countries that had war-torn situations that were coming to Canada. She would teach them skills like sewing, and I was the sewing teacher. You know, I mean, computer skills and things that they could learn in Canada to get them jobs in Canada, because these were educated women and men coming into this country, but they couldn't get jobs because they didn't get their education in Canada. So that was her way of giving back. But because she did all that volunteering, all that networking, all the stuff that she did, that's what helped her get what she had today. Sometimes we always think, you know, I'm not getting anything out of it. I'll do a lot of things where I don't get anything out of. I don't get paid. You know, I just show up and help out. All those things have helped me now to be where I am in my career. Because those favors will always come back, and they don't always come back in the form of money. But they come back in things that are more meaningful, like time and maybe a job, or maybe a reference. So after all that kind of died down, you know, I got out of school, I worked for my mom teaching sewing. That really actually gave me a lot of the confidence I needed to keep forward in my design career. I started doing like all these different fashion shows, and you name it, I was doing it. You know, I mean, just anything that I could do to just do my craft. I wasn't sure like where I was gonna go in my career, but at the time I knew I needed to get that experience. And I think humbling ourselves sometimes is the #1 thing that can stop a lot of us from getting where we wanna go. When you leave here, you can get that master's, you can get that piece of paper, but you know what? You still don't know everything. So humbling yourself means that you can admit to yourself, hey, I'm really good at this, but maybe I could use a little bit more of extra work or extra time. So I took that time to actually season myself to make sure I could get to the point where I was confident in saying, I'm a fashion designer, I can do this, 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 and this. And if anybody called me on it, I could be able to prove that. There's always the fake it till you make it factor. That's always a good thing to do. You know, sometimes you have to go into a room and act like you know what you're doing just to get in the door, but then at some point you're gonna have to prove you can do what you said you could do. So make sure that you get everything you need so that when you do get to that point, you can. Because sometimes you only have that one chance. At some point I met this really great guy. He just happened to be in the military in New York, and he was from Arkansas. We dated for about 3 years, and when he got out, he moved down here, and that was the point in my life where I decided I was either gonna follow my man or just keep on moving. And I decided to follow my man way down here and come down here to Arkansas. And it was different for me. When I moved here, I thought, I don't know, I was like, why did I do that? It was definitely not a fashion capital, let's be real. But, and this is like 10 years ago, actually 14 years ago, sorry. So when I came here, there weren't any fashion shows. There wasn't a fashion scene. I mean, we had like 1.5 mall in Little Rock, and there was nothing in there. So I actually started thinking that maybe God was trying to tell me something, that, you know, I wasn't supposed to be a designer. Because every time we would actually attempted to move to Atlanta or Dallas or somewhere else, something would always happen. So my husband was like, well, why don't you just try to just do it here? I'm like, do it where? Like, do what, you know? And, you know, I finally found my confidence. It was hard for me because I felt like everybody was different. I was like this valley girl, this black girl who just talked like a valley girl, and everybody always thought I was another race when I answered the phone. I was very proper, and I was just different. People thought I was like this alien. I was strange. So it was kind of hard for me to even adapt to Southern culture, you know? I never grew up knowing about racism, you know what I mean? I knew what racism was, but I didn't really experience it in Canada. I grew up in a place where you go in the elevator and there'd be somebody literally from every continent in the elevator. My friends were like Indian or East Indian or West Indian or Somalian or, you know what I mean, from all these different places of the world. The food I ate was from all these different places in the world, and I come to a place where it's so black and white. And it's just real. I never experienced that in my life, so I had to actually get adopted to all that. It was kind of different for me. So once I kind of slowly got over that curve and tried to find people that were very similar to me in Little Rock, that's when I started thinking about maybe having my own show. And there was this promoter down there that was gonna have this fashion show he asked me to do. He heard I did design, and I did the show with him, and like halfway through the show, he just stopped the show. He's like, okay, that's it, nobody's putting any more designs on the runway, this show's over. And my stuff hadn't even gone on yet. So that was the day I decided that clearly I wasn't meant to work with other people, and then I had to take my destiny in my own hands, and that I was gonna have my own show. So I actually started meeting people that were similar to me. I got a venue, got some model friends that I had met, and designed a 30-piece collection, and I was gonna show Little Rock who I was. I was gonna have this New York style runway fashion show, and I was just gonna do it. My husband told me to do it, I was gonna prove him wrong. Really, I was trying to do it, just prove him wrong, like, hey, you told me to do it, now look, it didn't work. but actually it did work. It was standing room only. I had over 200 people who showed up, and I showed this collection and got a really huge feature in the Arkansas Democrat Gazette. And after that, everything just kind of started coming to me. You know, people started calling me to do things. People called me from around the state about, you know, doing shows with me and getting designs made. I did a show at the governor's mansion for the governor and his wife. I mean, there's so many things that started coming about, you know, and at the time I had a daughter who at the time was 4. And I remember just thinking, you know, there was a show on TV that had came on right when she was born called Project Runway. And I remember watching the very first episode of that show. I was breastfeeding her. I was like, man, this is exactly what I've been waiting for. Like, something like this would be so awesome to do. So hopefully it will still be around, you know, when she's old enough. And luckily for me, when she was 4, it was still around. You know, I remember watching the final episode of season 4 when Kristen Siriano won, and they're like, you know, do you have what it takes? Go in here and download this application and send it in. And that's when my life really changed for the craziness that it is today. You know, it was a 30-page application I had to fill out. You had to take 4 pieces and go to New York. And just like American Idol, you know, stand on the street and wait with your designs and, you know, 6 in the morning for 4 or 5 hours in the cold. And I did all that. I took actually real models with me because I knew that my stuff isn't very, like, hanger friendly. They always call it hanger appeal. I don't have a lot of hanger appeal with my clothing. You actually have to put it on a body form for you to see the beauty of it. So I got 4 of my models to come with me. We all stayed in one little itty-bitty room in New York and stood in that line, you know, 6 a.m. And finally, eventually, the line started moving. And there was this guy that was walking in the line, you know, just kind of weeding out the people who he didn't think was worthy. And I remember he had told a few people to just kind of go home, like, you're not even what we're looking for, you might as well just get out of the line. And some people left, and some people didn't leave. Because you didn't have to leave, he was playing with your mind. Like, if you left, obviously you didn't want it bad enough. If someone could just come and say, you know what, that hat ain't working for me, you can just go home. You know what I mean? So when he came to me, I was like, okay, I've come all the way from Little Rock, I dare you to even start with me today. So when he looked at my portfolio, he looked at my models, and he just kind of whipped his hair like this. It's like, okay, you're good. I was like, I know I'm good. I'm going in here and I'm gonna get this. So that was kind of like the first test, you know? Got in there and talked to the judges, and I remember, I don't even know what I said or how I said it, but I just remember this woman saying, we like what we see and we want to just see what more you have to give. And when she said that to me, it was like, she had told me I was already on the show. I didn't know I had about 55 other steps to do, but when she said that, it's like I already claimed it. I'm going to be on this show. And I just busted out, did my hallelujah cry, and went back home and did my video, and the rest is kind of history. You know, I went on the show not knowing what it was like to be on a reality show. You know, you have a TV show where people are filming you. You have 16 other people who are competing for one prize. You're away from your family. There's no phone. There's no books. There's no magazine. There's no TV. It's like being in jail. You know what I mean? You're literally in this room with nothing. Someone's watching you 24/7. Everything you say, you're mic'd from 5 a.m. to 1 a.m. You sleep 3 or 4 hours. They're sleep depriving you. They're throwing your family pictures in your face so you can break down and just go against each other. They're telling you lies that this person said this about you, this person said that about you. It's all that, and you have to make a dress in 4 hours and go get judged, and somebody's going home. So that's your life for 6 weeks. You know, I say that because I think a lot of people now, it's like that instant fame. Everybody wants to be on a reality show and everybody wants to be on television for that instant fame, but you have to think about these things before you go on here, because once you go on these shows, what you say and what you do, you can't take back. And the one thing that I made sure when I went on there that, you know, I was raised very traditional African, and I had this little girl at home, I had this husband, I had people that were watching me. And I know how my country and my people are always perceived on television. Like, we have no sense, like we're just animals and stuff. So I knew I had to represent the new Africa, the person that I knew that we are back home, that a lot of people don't get to see on television. That I'm educated, that I have morals, that I have, you know, a good family back home, and I can stand on my own and talk about myself and talk back to somebody that's criticizing me without losing my head and breaking things up and being that person that they think that we are. So it's really important to me, especially as a black woman, to show that I have respect for myself. And that other black women who are watching television can see that you don't have to act a certain way on TV for fame or for ratings or for anything bigger than what it is you're supposed to get. I could just be myself And when people meet me after the show, who they met would still be the same person they saw on the show. At the end of that show, you know, I got to go to Bryant Park and show my collection, and that was a prize for me. At the time, you know, I didn't really think about it, but to be able to show in a room that probably cost about over $100,000 just to book it, just to have a fashion show is $100,000. That's not even like the models and the makeup and all the things you have to do to have a fashion show. So I got to actually do that in a place where all my other people that I, you know, looked up to, Donna Karan, Calvin Klein, you know, God knows, Valentino, all these designers that I've looked up to have shown on the same runway, and I got to do it for free. That was the prize right there. I didn't win that season, I came in second, but I won the fan favor, and I think I won the fan favor because I was pretty much down to earth. You know, it was just who you are. Like I said, what you are is what people see, and when they meet you and it's the same person, people get that on television. They can read through all that. So I was blessed enough to do that opportunity, and although I didn't win, like, it made me international. I've been able to travel like the world and show my designs. I got to go back to Liberia for the first time in 23 years, 2 years ago, to see my family. I did a fashion show there in front of the president of my country. That in itself was just like a dream. You know, I never thought I'd get to go back. But that kind of made it full circle for me, to be able to go back home and just say thank you to all these people that sacrificed their lives and their time for me to actually still be here and do what I do. I've gotten to go to South America, I mean, so many different things, but I think the blessing in that whole story is I was this girl that felt sorry for myself when I felt like God took everything from me, but really when I thought he took everything from me, he gave me everything and then some. Sometimes you have to look at your disappointments and the bad things in your life and analyze it and see, well, what can I learn from this? Not take the pity party route and just say, you know, poor me, woe is me, because there's always somebody doing worse than you. And for me, I know these people personally. They're in my family or they're in my home, back home, who would love to be where I am today. So you always have to take that negative and see what the positive is and how you can learn from that and how you can use that to maybe next time when I go into this interview, I won't smack my lips or roll my eyes, you know, maybe I didn't get that job because I was supposed to get this job. And I think when you have a positive attitude and you bring out such positivity, it comes back to you. When you're negative all the time, you're gonna get negativity. Your friends are gonna be negative. Everything at work is gonna be negative. It's like you bring it on. It's almost like a magnet. Like you can't even get it off you. It's like, why there's all this negative stuff happening? Because you're negative. And I know it's hard because I've been there. I've been there when everything is crashing down and everything you try to do, you get knocked down. Every time you try to stand up, somebody's stomping you. I've been there. Trust me. I can sing the song, I'm the vice president, CEO of that club. But I realized at some point, feeling sorry for myself wasn't gonna get me anywhere. But in the same spot I was, just turning around in a circle. It's like, you just doing this. But I think when you're positive and you take chances in life, like literally I took a chance because I stepped out on faith. I didn't know I was gonna get on that show. But I knew that if I didn't do it, I always regret it. I'm sure there's a lot of you in here, there was something that came, that was a huge opportunity that you wanted to do, and then when it finally came to you to do it, you probably stepped away from it because you were afraid of failure. I think that's our biggest thing, is being afraid of failure and being afraid to fail. But I think when you take a chance and face failure in its face, sometimes they'll just run away and be like, okay, I'm good, I'm out. You know, you can actually achieve something that you never thought you could, or at least try. Just trying is the first step. Because once you try that first time, even if you don't win, like I didn't win that season, I came in second. And I was very upset. Trust me, I went home and I cried. I cried like a baby and I was upset. But, you know, I mean, like as soon as I lost, you know, I started getting these emails from all these people from around the world, and a lot of them from my country, my continent, about little girls that look like me, who hadn't seen fashion designers that looked like them, so they didn't have any inspiration to look up to. And I had their story. You know, I had went through the same things they went through, and I was still standing. And I still pushed through. So even though I didn't win on TV, to them, I was their winner. You know, and I inspire them. I inspire other mothers who were 33 years old, who were married, who lived in the South, who thought, well, they couldn't design or they couldn't be what they wanted to be because they were married or they had kids. Those are just things, that circumstances in life that we can use them as excuses, or we can use them to work harder because of. So that's when I started stopping to feel sorry for myself and realized that I had opened doors for so many other people to see that it could be done, and I needed to just push forward. You know, I went back on All Stars not too long ago. I finished actually in January. Project Runway All Stars 3, and same thing again, came in second again, and that was really devastating for me as well. But I really had to look at it as, you know, there's some things in our life and in our country right now that politically, there's still a lot of political things that happen on television. We're still breaking down barriers. After 13 seasons, actually, that show has only had one African American winner to date. And it's really because I spoke against it after I lost. And I think she won because I said something. Sometimes you have to say things that I didn't know, you know, by saying what I said before I left there, I'm not sure if they were going to invite me back, but I didn't really care because it needed to be said. That we're talented, we're just as good as any other race of designers, and if you're going to bring us on this show, it needs to be fair that we can have a chance to win, and that second place shouldn't be the highest we can get, because that's our limit of achievement. It's 2013, and we have a black president. You have little black boys and girls who are going to grow up now thinking they can be president because they see it. So there's no reason why we shouldn't have a reality show that's been on this for 13 seasons, and the highest you can get is second place. 3 months later, a young lady from Philadelphia won Dawn Streeter, the first African American to win the show. And I would like to hope that what I said to the producers resonated. Sometimes you have to stand up for what you believe in, and there's a way to do it where you can leave with your head up high. But I knew that I would never be going back on that show again, but I don't regret going on the show because it's opened me up to so many opportunities. I've met people that I've admired my entire life. I got to meet Oprah, who's one of my number one people that I admire and inspires me. And to be able to touch her just in her face and just touch her and see that she's real lets me feel like I can achieve everything she's achieved and more. All my setbacks haven't been setbacks. They've just been things that pushed me into different directions. I don't know why I didn't win this show twice. But I know that what I've achieved is bigger than any winner who has won the show. I go places with these winners and people are like, whatever happened to this person? Well, they're sitting right here. So whatever it is in my life that I have achieved thus far, to me it's just the beginning, because I still look at myself as a struggling designer. I still feel like I have so much more to do and so much more to give. But every season, the one thing I do is I go to New York and I show at Fashion Week, because there is less and less of us being represented on those runways. Whether it's from models or designers, less and less. And each season, these models go out and they try out to design, you know, to model for these different designers, and they're told they're not beautiful enough, they're not skinny enough, they're not tall enough, everything but yes. So when I show, yes, I show 98% of African American models, and I always get criticized for it, but you know what? If I don't open up to my own, nobody else is going to. Sometimes it's good to just go against the grain, and I don't care what people say about me or think about me. The fact of the matter is there's nothing wrong with these girls. And they're not going to sit around until they decide, well, it's a season where we can cast them. Models are models, and they're all good in all races and all shapes and all sizes. But I think me going and showing every season and showing my face and show that, yes, I'm an African-American designer, and I'm showing in New York at Fashion Week, and I'm paying for this myself with sponsorship or out of my own pocket, and I'm here, and I deserve to be here because I've worked to be here. And eventually, more and more people will come on board with that. So that's my thing I'm doing right now, and eventually I'll get to where I want to go. But I wish you guys all the best in whatever it is that you want to do, but just know that going forward, it's not going to be 100% easy. It's not going to be a coasting to the sky to where you want to be, but it's going to be hard work. But if it's something you really want to do and you're really passionate about, it's something that you've dreamt about, whether you've seen somebody that looks like you doing it or not, if you dream it, speak it. That's the first step. Dream it, but speak it. When it comes out of your mouth, that's when it becomes real. If it's just all in here, it's just a fantasy, you're just daydreaming. But when you speak it, I am Korto Momolu and I will be a fashion designer. Next step is to just step out on faith, like seriously, step out on it and walk in it. Because that's the only way you're gonna get to where you're gonna go. Where you go down there, the only way you're gonna get there is actually to walk to it. So get up, speak it, walk it, step out on faith. Thank you guys for listening. I hope you found something in what I said today to keep you moving forward. And fashion show. The show you're gonna see coming up right now is actually my collection I just showed at Fashion Week in February in New York. It was actually amazing for me because I finally got a full sponsorship to show in New York from Shea Moisture. I don't know if a lot of you have natural hair, you've heard of that company. That is a Liberian-born company. They're Liberian, and they called me up and said, we will sponsor you to go to New York Fashion Week. They saw what happened on the show, and they wanted to actually stand with me. That's some of the stuff I talk about, like when you just give everything and you talk about who you are and you're proud of it, good things do come from it. So I got a full sponsorship to go to New York with this beautiful company that, I use their products, so it was actually kind of great. And the fact that they're Liberian even made it greater. So that's the collection you're gonna see in a few minutes. Well, you can check out my website. It's kortomomolu.com. I'm on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest. I'm on everything. I do respond to all my emails myself personally. So don't leave. Please stay and watch the show so you can see my collection, see these girls that worked hard and practicing to do this show for you tonight. Thank you so much for having me. I hope, like again, I said something today that may have sparked something in you to move forward in your dreams and your aspirations, and never be afraid to go after it. A dream is just a dream, but like I said, when you speak it, did anybody watch the Oscars? I know you heard all the Oscar speeches, but it's like when Lupita said, every dream you have is valid, and don't let anybody make you feel like it's not. Until if you believe it's not, then it's not, but if you have a dream and you really believe it, just find somebody to help you achieve it, okay? Thank you guys.
Next, we will have a performance by Samil, so if you guys could make some noise for our very own.
Natural, beauty, poise, power, strength, pretty, bravery, creativity, artistic, brilliant, loving, nurturing, smart, black, white, Latino, Asian, character, curvaceous, thin, exquisite. All of these describe all of you. Remember that what you possess, the person next to you may not. But collectively, we are a force unstoppable. Encourage is one of my favorite words, and today I encourage every one of you, male or female, to always rise. You may write me down in history with your bitter, twisted lies. You may trod me in the very dirt, but still, like dust, I'll rise. Does my sassiness upset you? Are you beset with gloom? 'Cause I walk like I've got oil wells pumping in my living room. Just like moons and like suns with the certainty of tides, just like hopes springing high, still I rise. Did you want to see me broken? Bowed head, lowered eyes, shoulders falling down like teardrops, weakened by my soulful cries. Does my haughtiness offend you? Don't you take it awful hard? 'Cause I laugh like I've got gold mines digging in my own backyard. You may shoot me with your words, and you may cut me with your eyes. You may kill me with your hatefulness, but still like air, I'll rise. Does my sexiness upset you? Are you beset with gloom? That I dance like I've got diamonds at the meeting of my thighs. Out of the huts of history's shame, I rise. Up from a past that's rooted in pain, I rise. I'm the black ocean leaping and wide, welling and swelling, I bear in the tide. Leaving behind nights of terror and fear, I rise. Bringing the gifts that my ancestors gave, I am the hope and the dream of the slave. I rise, I rise, I rise. Thank you.
Are you guys ready for the fashion show? Yeah. You guys aren't loud enough. I'm gonna ask you one more time. Are you ready for the fashion show? Yeah. Okay. DJ, what you got? We're getting ready to have some closing remarks by our very own Dean Brown.
Thank you, and thank you so much for attending this event. Give yourselves a round of applause. Before you leave, and I know you all do have class, so I'm going to be brief. We have a couple of honorees that we want to acknowledge. If you're here, please stand and please see me after the program, and I'll make sure I get your award to you. Our first student honoree, she was nominated by her department coordinator, Dr. Jessie Walker. Ms. Tarshika West, if you're here, please stand. Congratulations. And now, next we have Ms. Armida Brown. She was nominated by her Dean of School of Business and Management, Dean Carla Martin. If you're here, Ms. Armida Brown. Okay. In her absence, thank you all for giving her a round of applause. And our last student honoree is Ms. Maria Cabane. Also, we have our staff honorees, and one of our staff, she had to leave for another meeting. Dean Carla Martin, please give her a round of applause. And Ms. Cynthia McGee. She can go back. Our Community Service Award goes to Ms. Virginia Himes. In her absence, she was unable to be here with us, so please give her a round of applause as well. Thank you again so much for being here at this program and supporting our programs that we have. We were supposed to have our women's forum yesterday, but due to the weather, we're going to have to reschedule. So I'll let you know at a later time on when that event is going to happen. If you have questions, concerns, or anything about getting involved, how to get involved with SGA, Union Programs Board, or any student involvement in leadership activity, please come to our office 218 and we'll get you involved. We'll make sure to do that. So, and please, if you all have not came to see me at all, I want to know your name. I want to know who you are. I want to know where you're from, what organization you're a part of, and ask my former students. They do know that I know how to find you and who you are, and I'm at the pageants, and I know what kind of activities you're involved in, but I want to get to know all of my students. So thank you for having me, and please join us for a little reception at the end. Thank you.